Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. We are back with a Subterror video. As most of you know me, Subterror was one of the main features of this channel at the start. And we have kind of directed towards something entirely different from that point on. But I wanted to, kind of recatch back on that old Subterror vibe and talk to you about the deck that I really love. So the thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is something that I personally was kind of, wondering about. Something that I really have not seen anyone explain before, and that is why Subterror never really was that good of a deck that kind of promised us that it was. So of course I'm not talking about the Behemoth Subterror deck. I will touch upon it a little bit at the start, but the main thing that I wanted to focus on was in the OCG, the deck was super popular, super strong, super represented. And it was just honestly one of the best decks for a really long time, to the point that it almost was a problem. But it was just so good, so overperforming. But by the time that we finally got the cards we needed for the deck was really lackluster. It kind of has been for the last couple of years. Like, don't get me wrong, the deck is still really good, but it never really was, a Guru format like the OCG really had, because it was really oppressive there. But of course we have to start at the beginning, and that is 2016 with the newest release, the Dark Illusion. The Dark Illusion was a set that really brought a lot of legacy support like Blue Eyes and Dark Magician, and a lot of really new cool TCG exclusive decks as well. This was the very first set that Spiral got released in, but it also was the very first set that featured Subterror cards. And Subterror cards at that point of time were still a TCG exclusive. This means that the OCG did not have any Subterror cards or any promise on when the cards would be in the OCG instead. The first cards released were, I believe it was Hidden City was one of the first cards, of course. It was Nemesis Warrior, it was Stalagmo, and it was Humastrix. And these cards really didn't form an archetype, it was only 4 cards I believe. And over the next couple of 4 sets they would get more support. But one really important thing is that even though the set got more support and it was really a cool deck, it featured the behemoths that summoned themselves face down, but it never really got working because they were always missing something. But one thing to notice is that at this point we didn't have Subterror Guru. That's a card that came in way later in the game. So even though that was the start of Subterror, the deck really hadn't seen competitive play at that point, because the deck honestly was not better than other decks that we had at the time. And even though it was a cool, niche, fun deck to play, it just wasn't good. There was not enough synergy within the deck itself. The deck, it struggled kinda. They had some good cards, but it was not enough to make, a real deck. So skip ahead to 2017, and at this point the OCG had announced their special packs that they featured, where a lot of TCG exclusive cards would come to the OCG, which was really cool. And they did something really cool with there as well. They announced something else. They announced in their V-Jump promos a brand new Subterror card that we have not seen before in the TCG. So what's a card that could fix this entire deck? Well, people in the OCG thought of one thing, and that was Subterror Guru. So Subterror Guru was announced in 2017 in the OCG, being a Subterror card, not a Subterror Behemoth card, but something to work together with the lower type of Subterror monsters. But something really different started to happen, and that is the deck kind of evolved. The deck went from a kind of bad combo-esque deck featuring the behemoths, trying to summon them on the board, to dropping basically 90% of the Subterror cards and only playing one, and that is Subterra Guru. So the deck was basically looking at that point like a 3 Hidden City, 3 Subterra Guru, 3 Final Battle, stuff like that. Which is something entirely different from what the deck was supposed to be doing. Which is something that happens a lot, an archetype never really gets, there is not an archetype that played all support cards. There are always some cards that are left behind. This deck really was something else, where it left around 90% of the deck behind. There was only one behemoth that saw play at that point, and that was Humastrix, the one that we famously know already. And the other cards were Fiendus, they were Nemesis Archer, sometimes Cave Clash. I personally like it, as you probably know. Final Battle, and of course the Hidden City. And that was basically the entire Subterror deck. The rest of the cards were all basically stun cards, control cards, and that's exactly how it was, received in OCG. It now was a stun deck, which is the birth of Guru Control. At that point in the OCG, Subterror's reigned dominance for half a year, a really, really long time. If you look at the meta reports from around the time, it was basically Subterra, that's it. There were so many Subterra players. At that point, Major Bandits just hit and the OCG was kind of neutered and nerfed, and Subterrors was at full power. And yes, Guru had, you know, all the stars aligned to, you know, make his entrance and make impact on the competitive scene. And Subterror Guru was a deck that really promised a lot. So with all that in mind, and the TCG players still not having a Guru because it still hasn't been released there, but all knowing that the Guru format was rampant in the OCG, you know, it was kind of waiting until Guru came around. But we kept and kept and kept waiting, and eventually, if we skip ahead to 2019, which is 2 years after the original release in the OCG, we finally saw the arrival of Subterror Guru in Savage Strike. Now, Savage Strike is a set something else. Most of you will remember it for, you know, a lot of famous cards like Boral Savage Dragon. But the Guard Dragons were also there, introducing the combo Thunder Dragon deck. There was Sky Striker support featuring Kainya. There was a lot of power thing in this set. And the thing that happened is the deck kind of fell dead on arrival. There was a lot of hype containing this deck because people loved Subterra, and there was a lot of hype around control decks because it would be one of the best control decks out. But the format was just really, really different from the OCG. Because you see what the OCG had, they had a really still format. Everything, you know, kind of was hit or banned already, and there really, you know, was not much contest for the Subterra deck. But by the time it arrived here, we already had a fully developed meta. You know, we had Salamon Greats, we have Sky Striker, we have Thunder Dragon combo, we have all these very, very strong decks, and then, you know, you have a set Guru Pass deck, which is really, really not as powerful as those decks. So, you know, the identity of how the Subterra deck works is it works with advantage gaining. You know, one hidden city is a +2, and every turn you recycle your resources to, you know, eventually draw out your opponent's resources so that they don't have anything else to play with. But if you match that up against a deck like Sky Striker that has, like, each card in the deck goes +1, that's really, really difficult to handle for Subterra, which is actually what happened. You know, Subterra got released in a time where it had some really, really bad matchups. You know, Thunder Dragon Colossus was at that point around, which was really difficult for Subterras to deal with because everything surged in the deck. We had Sky Striker, which was basically literally unbeatable. You had to have, like, the most insane hand, and even then, you know, top deck engaged and you still lost. We had Salamon Great, which was a really easy matchup, which was nice. So you have this format where Subterra can beat one of the meta decks, and it has a okay matchup against Thunder Dragon, but it has like an insanely, you know, bad matchup against Sky Striker, and you would just not get any representation out of that because, you know, everyone was playing Sky Striker. Everyone was playing as either an engine or as the deck itself. So yeah, with over like 80% of Sky Striker in the top cut, what is a deck like Subterra going to do except like go out in the top cut literally round 1? So although it was good, although it was fun, I know that I played the deck back then. It was really, really difficult and risky to play because, you know, if you went to your nationals, you know, probably it will not be like a YCS. There will not be 90% Sky Striker, and you can still have a good time. You can still play with it, but it's just super, super difficult because you are really matchup dependent. If you face that Sky Striker deck at that time, you will probably just lose, and, you know, you can make the top cut, but the moment that you face one of your bad matchups, it's gonna go downhill. So although the deck was really performing well, the format just wasn't good for it. So unfortunately, Guru had to wait until the next format to see if Sky Striker would be, you know, gone, and to see what happens then. So what then happened was Sky Striker indeed was gone, which was really, really cool to see. Eventually Engage got banned, and +1 archetype finally died off, meaning Subterra had all the, you know, all the stars aligned to make his entrance once again and define the competitive format as a control deck. But the moment that we went out of the Sky Striker format, we saw the release of Magician's Souls. I don't believe this was straight afterward, but this was basically the format after the Sky Striker decks. We entered the Luna Light / Spiral format. And Luna Light is a super, super spam heavy deck. Subterra has an okay matchup against the deck. It's pretty okay. If you're going second, you're gonna have a hard time. If you're going first, you can probably win with Floodgates. But Spiral is something entirely different. Because at this point, Spiral still had the double helix, they still had the master plan, they had souls, you know, to discard their bricks and combo off after that. And one of the most important things they had was Sleeper. And Sleeper destroyed 2 cards each turn. And Guru cannot out an untargetable, undestructible Sleeper. So this really brought another problem for the deck. After the Sky Striker deck finally was gone, it was matched by something that was maybe even worse for the Subterra deck, because the destruction of all their cards, you know, in the end phase you could just destroy the Guru in a set, and then in your turn you can destroy the other 2 sets, and then you lost. It was that easy. With so many tools that are powerful, like Super Agent, Spiral Tough, and Master Plan, and a Sleeper, it was just so difficult to deal with, and the deck resulted to a very hand trap build, and, you know, very floodgate build at that point as well. But at that point it was just kind of a, you know, die roll to see who would go first and would maybe win, because you could win off Spiral, but it was just super difficult. And again, Subterra landed in a place where it was not really able to fight back the other decks as consistent as it would. There was just too many decks running around, too many good decks, and it was just really difficult for Subterra to beat them consistently, because the Spiral deck was just way too powerful, the Lunalight deck was way too spammy, and, you know, how much are you gonna do? How much are you gonna get out of that one Subterra Guru? And eventually, both of those decks got the X as well. Lunalight Tiger was banned, and Master Plan was banned as well. So maybe now is finally the time for Subterra to be a thing. You would be wrong in that, because right after that ban list was another Yu-Gi-Oh set, which was earlier this year, which was Secret Slayers? So Secret Slayers arrived earlier this year at the start of, you know, the Rona-virus. And what arrived in that set were 2 archetypes. One was Emancipator, which could basically play through anything and was the strongest deck Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably has ever seen. And the other deck was Eldlik, which had a card that could send cards from your field to the graveyard by just discarding itself. So 2 decks arrived, one replacing Spiral and Lunalight at the same time, being more strong, more versatile, more dangerous. And the other deck was a deck that could, you know, deal with your Guru from the start. So both decks from Secret Slayer had a really, really good matchup against Guru, and Guru still didn't have the stage all to himself. Which is really different from an OCG. You know, in OCG, Guru, again, he had everything going for him. Everything was good. There was no other competitive deck that could deal with all this stuff. You know, eventually there came other decks, which is why it lost relevancy. But the TCG just never really had that time. And even until this day, now Emancipator is finally gone, and Subterra could be in a good matchup again. And now we have a hand loop format with Dragon Link that plays through anything, and we have a Infernoble deck that can play through anything as well. Of course, we are finally at a point in time where Subterra has gotten some support, quote unquote, not actual Subterra support, but they have gotten earlier this year we got Battles of Legends, which gave us the Numeron package, which gave birth to the Numeron Subterra package, which was really, really a good deck. Slightly bricky, but it was a really good deck nonetheless. And later we also saw the Megatins, which brought us Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is also a really good buff to the Subterra deck, because you can just play 3 Red Eyes Fusion now. So all in all, Subterra is, you know, in one of the best spots it has ever been. The matchups are still not good, but they are also not really terrible compared to what they were earlier, because Sky Striker was Kryptonite, Sleeper killed the deck, and now you just hope you win the Dyro, and then you maybe win. So maybe right now is the best format that Subterra has ever seen. I'm fairly certain it's in a really good place right now. I've tested both the Numeron and the Red Eyes package, and although the decks are really, really good, I just don't really want to resort to those decks, because there are still a lot of issues the deck has. What it basically comes down to, I was talking to Rafael yesterday at Locals, and he said the same thing. The deck has just too few starters. You know, you have to draw your City or you lose, or you have to draw your Guru or you lose, but it basically comes down to City, because if you don't have City, you're not going to win anyway. It has no extenders, no versatile play. It always basically does the same thing. And although, you know, it's really fun to, you know, play through those fields, or, you know, to play it out differently each match, the deck really does only one thing, and it's not enough. It needs more consistency. It needs a way to add Hidden City, maybe even better. And I know maybe that's pushing it a little bit, but I'm just sure that this deck has just so many consistency issues that it really doesn't matter at this point. If the deck wants to compete in nowadays meta, or, you know, even the meta after this, I'm fairly certain that it's still not gonna be that good. Just because, you know, it's still missing so many things. You need to open that Hidden City, and you're only allowed to play 4 copies with Terraforming. So yeah, a lot of you have wondered why I haven't played the deck for such a long time, and that's basically the truth. It's just, it doesn't compete to the decks. It didn't already. It was a lot of fun to try, but eventually you have to recognize that the deck is just not gonna work out for you. I'm not saying that the deck is bad. I'm not saying that it's terrible. I'm definitely saying it's in the best place that it has ever been at this point. But I'm just saying that it might not be good enough as we hoped. And I'm also saying that it's not really that competitive in the scene that we have right now. With hand loops galore, dragon links everywhere, warriors that combo off, and yeah, lightning storm, duster, everything. So I hope that really gave you a little bit of insight about the deck, about what's so different between the OCG and the TCG. And yeah, do you think this Guru's format will ever come? Do you think there will be maybe some more Subterra support in there? Who knows? Maybe a link one that searches Hidden City. Probably not, but maybe we can dream, you know. So yeah, if you liked the video, be sure to subscribe, and I'm sure there will be more Subterra videos in the future. I'm just not sure when, because I'm not playing the deck currently. But yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys soon. Bye guys.